Third morning, when Jimi Hendrix started playing the Star-Spangled Banner and the sun was coming up. You remember how you felt? I don't. I didn't feel anything. I wasn't at Woodstock. I mean, spiritually, I was at Woodstock. Spiritually, we were all at Woodstock. But in the crude physical sense, I was embarking on a personal journey, a rather urgent quest for major interstates as I began driving a friend's car from New York to Los Angeles on that particular weekend. For many people, not having been at Woodstock is a hard thing to admit. In fact, if everyone who claims to have been there had actually been there, the entire continent would have tipped to the right. And that didn't happen until 1980. I've seen the movie a number of times, and I've considered listening to the album in my backyard amidst a driving rainstorm just to recreate the experience. But people who were really there heard things and saw things that the rest of us missed. And it's been tough until now, because what we have for you tonight is the rest of Woodstock. And here's how it happened. While researching all these 20th anniversary shows, somebody at Warner Brothers discovered hundreds of cans of film, which turned out to be the entire festival, including long-lost performances by Janis Joplin and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and the band. Now, I suppose for some of you younger kids out there, some of that Woodstock audience behavior may have looked a little weird, especially for those of you who recognized your mother and father in the crowd. I think to understand Woodstock and the 60s in general, you have to realize why they were absolutely necessary. You see, the alternative was more of the 50s. See what I mean? The 60s were necessary. But in fact, the 60s didn't officially begin until 1964, February 1964 to be exact. In that month alone, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act, the Beatles first appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show, Cassius Clay won the heavyweight title and began thinking about changing his name. The 100th American soldier died in Vietnam, and many people began thinking about changing their country of residence. And Bob Dylan first sang, "The times they are a-changin'."
The planet of the 60s.
This is me, 1969, wearing my grooviest threads. And this is me today, dressed for success at a power lunch. Which is better? I don't know. The lunch is better now. But those were the days.
When Woodstock alumni get together and talk about it, which is something they seem to enjoy doing, particularly in front of people who, through no fault of their own, didn't happen to have been there, they remember a sense of participation, as if for the first time they weren't just members of the audience, they were part of the music. A 400,000-piece rock band with the...
Hi, my name is Penn Jillette, and my partner Teller, 20 years ago at Woodstock, was a high school Latin teaching pig. Me, I was 14 years old and couldn't get a ride to Woodstock. This is not the way I dressed during that. This is the way I wanted to dress, but my parents wouldn't let me. So there I was on stage at a high school talent show with my hair getting really good in the back. And I did the high school talent show. I got paid like the Who, and I won.
Like every other sovereign state, Woodstock Nation had its borders and neighbors. Its citizens were fortunate to be located next door to the friendly storekeepers of America.
But as the people kept coming in, hi, Mr. Vasper, hi, Mr. How they move on? I guess they saw the sign. Soap. They bought some soap, but not that much. Cookies, I did say that. Candy, ice cream. Yeah, we had quite a bit of stuff left over. Beer, soda, and stuff like that went. Milk went, pretty good. At that time, sometimes they'd run out. of money, you know? And we lent them $5, $10, cash checks for them, and we never had a check bounce. I think we cashed around 25 checks. I said, well, Fred, half of them are good, we'll be all right. Not a one bounced. Not one. Everyone that borrowed a nickel from us, it wasn't that much, but come back and paid. Unbelievable.
You talk about Woodstock. I worked in the Catskills all my life. I worked in a nightclub up there. The boss was so tough, he used to stab me goodnight. The checkroom girl's name was Rocco. Rock and roll. I was the original rock and roll. I used to practice my fiddle. They threw rocks and rolls through the wind at me. It was what characters you meet up in these places. A hooker walked up to me. She said, I'll do anything you want for $50. I said, paint my house. Things happened up there. Two hippies up there walking along. One said, look at a dead bird. He said, where? You ever see a hippie whistle for a cab? Taxi? So take my wife, please. Take my...
Coming up next on Woodstock, Return to the Planet of the 60s, Jimi Hendrix, Robert...
You don't need words to communicate, you know. I could communicate with you by rock. If your skull was crushed, my message would be clear. Now, a handsomer form of communication is, of course, known as vocabulary. It skips the step of picking up the rock, recoiling at what was living beneath it, then washing it off in the river, following my enemy's spoor to his camp, you see. Me, I prefer vocabulary. It's neat, but what a tar pit it is. Our own ignorant children cannot understand Shakespeare, yet Shakespeare himself could not understand Chaucer. Ironic, isn't it, that during the Vietnam era, the pro-war factions and marijuana-drinking hippies, diametrically opposed in outlook and footwear, adversaries in every other respect, understood each other perfectly. Why? I submit that it had to do with alphabet. Now, the ancient Etruscans, we recall, used 23 letters in theirs. TV scripts from the 1950s whittled that down to only 13 letters. But the pro-war culture of the late 60s, which gave us such euphonies as body bag and Megadeth, was content with about 11. Not to be outdone, the hippies got it down to about 8 words total.
Then it'll happen, you know?
You know, I am often asked, what, if any, is the enduring linguistic heritage of the hippie? My answer? Yes, there is. One unisyllabic phrase has become the logos, a generation's passepartout, if you will. The all-purpose word. Call it noun, adjective, interjection, non sequitur. And so, we conclude our seminar by saying, hats off to like.
Like, people here are, like, really friendly. Like, people have been great.
They're like,
Oops, broke a string. Air guitar was for everyone who wanted to play like Jimi Hendrix, which no one ever could. Because Jimi Hendrix wasn't only the most inventive guitar player in all of rock and roll. Jimi Hendrix was an experience.
The festival at Woodstock probably was an offshoot of the moon landing a month before. It having been successful and possibly the single most impressive scientific event of the 20th century, maybe in the history of humankind, I think that these 400,000 people attempted 400,000 individual moonshots.
It looks like we're...
From about 1967 to 69, I'd say about 40% of the people I met asked me my sign, and after Woodstock, about 83 to 85% of the people asked me my sign, and they always took 12 guesses. You know, they never got it. Oh, Aquarius, and you know, in astrology, I think you look at the paper, say, a good day to ask for a raise. You go, right on, right on. If I had a job, I would ask for a raise on a day like today. You know, that sort of thing.
Woodstock was, among other things, a perfect example of what used to be called the counterculture. In this counterculture, it was agreed that everything looked better naked, except for greed. And for this reason, many people at Woodstock took off their clothes. Now, here's one sign of the very real progress made since the 1960s. Back then, on television, they could only show you home viewers this. Today, thanks in no small part to the continuing spirit of Woodstock, we can now show you this. My, how far we've come.
I think the 60s were an unbelievable time socially and politically. The whole thing was just one of the best times that I think that I had. I was in Woodstock in 68 and in 70, because I don't like crowds. I was there 70 for the first anniversary, and in 68 I was there for the pre-anniversary of the event, and I've been celebrating. Actually, this will be the first year that I don't celebrate.
Well, come on, Millie. Got anything to say?
You want me to break the camera? Put my water hose out in the front there and said to the kids, "See you here.
That lady there.
You have all the water you want," and I used everything up I had to make sandwiches with, and I couldn't get out to get any more.
The only mistake, we never raised our prices. At that time, beer was, I think, $2 a six-pack. And on the other side, they were getting $5. So we kept ours at $2. We left it that way. Didn't think anything about it. Well, if I knew they were coming, I would put 50 cases of peanut butter right up by that door there, and 50 cases of jelly, grape jelly. Stock up on grape jelly and peanut butter. Because it's, when you figure it out, it's the only thing they could keep. You get hot weather, it's the only thing to keep. They couldn't cook meat, right? Bologna or stuff that we could have had to eat that right away. Milk would go sour. So that was the greatest thing they could have. I sold out of that in 2 hours. I was out of peanut butter and jelly. Unbelievable.
The 60s were, in a word, fragmented. And you could say the same thing about Woodstock. Nobody really saw it all. Cameras ran out of film. People forgot to press the record switch. It was all over the place. It was more than anyone was prepared to deal with. But by putting some of the concert film together with some home movie footage and some of the first primitive portable video, we have managed to restore one entire piece of extraordinary rock and roll history.
Return.
Oh, even though I was just a prepubescent petite flower, I was at Woodstock and saw things no one else saw. Yeah, I was backing Jimi Hendrix on heavy acid accordion. It could happen. And Margaret and Nancy Sinatra were dancing on the speakers. They fell off and landed on Jimmy. And he goes, "Hey, something heavy's coming down on my head." I said, "Cosmic."
Word I get is that
One experience shared by everyone who went to Woodstock was the surprising, astonishing realization of how many of us there were. And that was one of the things that gave us all, a whole generation, even those of us who didn't happen to be there, an idea. If we could all get together and make something good happen, maybe we could stay together and make something bad stop. In all the recent Woodstock reunions and Woodstock retrospectives, there's been a recurring note of late 80s hip cynicism. Woodstock was self-indulgent. Woodstock was messy. Woodstock was a major marketing breakthrough. Maybe. But I think Woodstock was also part of something better than all of that. Something important and ongoing. It was one loud, messy, joyous moment in the continuing history of young people, then and now, here and everywhere, striving for a world of peace and love. From those of us who were not at Woodstock, from those of us who were, and from those of us who are no longer sure,